Welcome back to the Law and Crime Trial Network. I'm Stacey Delikat, and thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. Well, you may have heard the news about the Las Vegas concert shooting. Remember, that happened back in October of last year. 58 people killed, hundreds wounded when a gunman opened fire at a concert, a country music festival outside the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Well, yesterday, MGM Resorts, which owns the Mandalay Bay Hotel, filed a lawsuit suing 1,000 victims of the shooting. Suing these victims, trying to relieve themselves of liability in this tragic mass shooting. Lisa Fine is one of the victims of the tragic shooting. She is a survivor. She has, in fact, helped form a survivors group, and she joins me live now via Skype from Tahoe. Lisa, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So I have to first ask, what was your reaction when you heard the news about this lawsuit?
You know, it was complete outrage and shock. And I never thought in a million years that MGM would stoop this low, quite frankly. It's like being re-victimized. You know, October 1st was the worst night of most of our lives. There were 22,000 people there, and I thought we were all going to die. We certainly were. And the fact that they would allow a man to come in there with all of those bags of weapons, then he shoots down and tries to murder us all. Then they sue the people that he was trying to murder. But it had happened 3 years prior to that, where there was a man that brought in weapons, and it was only discovered through a maid going in that there were weapons there. So this has happened before, and that makes me disgusted that they would think of doing this. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about their claims a little bit. They're not suing the victims. They're not suing you and the others for money. They're not even asking for attorney's fees. They are just claiming that they should not be held liable because of a law known as the Safety Act, which was enacted after the 9/11 attacks in 2002. And the Safety Act has to do with terrorism. So let me first ask you, Lisa, because a lot of different people are weighing in here. MGM hotels are arguing this was an act of terrorism, and that's part of the reason they shouldn't be held liable. What do you think? Was this shooting an act of terrorism?
I have no idea why a man would take a bunch of weapons into a hotel in Vegas and shoot down on 22,000 fans. I have no idea. It makes no sense to me, but what is very upsetting is that Mandalay Bay, MGM, could have taken funds and helped people. They could have given to our Route 91 Strong nonprofit, because we give funds directly to survivors that are struggling. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their homes. They're on suicide watch. This is really bad. People don't understand the scope of this. What they just did potentially is going to push somebody over the edge. It is so disruptive to life. And the fact that the world is in mass shooting, this is where we live now. Just mass shootings at schools, movie theaters, concerts. Somebody's got to take responsibility. Somebody's got to stand up. And we need to unite together and bring together people to help people that are suffering from these mass shootings. That's why we started Route 91 Strong.
So what you're saying almost this is just adding insult to injury. I had read some of your earlier comments that this was triggering PTSD for some of the victims. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, me included. Yeah, our team, we have 14 board members on our team, 10 of which are survivors. We are beside ourselves. Our social media is blowing up. My phone is blowing up. People are reaching out to us because they know that our mission and focus is to help survivors overcome the darkest moments of their life. And what I'm getting is that these people are so upset and outraged that they are saying they're never going to use any of the MGM's hotels, anything that they're affiliated with. They are screaming. And I am speechless, but I have so much anger and hurt, and just because I talk to these survivors on a daily basis. I live Las Vegas every day, and I cry with them. They're hurting. This is just insult to injury. It's salt in our wounds. It is salt in our wounds.
The hotel, you know, as I said before, the hotel group basically says it should not be held liable for these shootings. They're saying they bear no liability, really trying to put it on the security company. Was the hotel liable here? Were they at fault at all for what happened in your mind and the mind of other survivors that you work with in your group?
Sorry, while I'm paying attention to all the coverage of what was happening and watching him bring all those bags up with all the weapons and knowing that it happened 3 years prior, Absolutely, they're responsible. They should pay attention. I mean, it's just common sense. Common sense. They know that there is a possibility of somebody doing that again. Then don't you think they should pay attention? They have cameras everywhere. If anybody takes a chip off a table, everybody knows about it, and security is there. Yet a man can bring in all those bags of weapons, and they're not paying attention. And then nobody's allowed to go in his room. I mean, let's just. We know that they're responsible.
So you were one of the victims that is being sued in this suit. Is that right?
My understanding that my lawsuit had not been filed yet. I do have a lawsuit, but our attorney, Brian Claypool, he was doing these in an order of people that were injured severely. There's, shot, and then he was going down the line. But the thing is that I will still file my lawsuit because I want this to never happen again. I sat there and watched people die. I listened to them scream in agony. We crawled through their blood. We will never forget them. There were 58 angels that died that night, and there were 800 people that were trampled or shot, 22,000 people that were at that concert. Now imagine the ripple effect through their families. There are people that are going to go through divorces. They're going to go on substance abuse. It's such a sad thing, that evil and darkness that happens. And then they continue the evil and darkness. It is unacceptable. It's disgusting. It is sick. And I think that the people are going to scream and yell about this, and I think it's the biggest mistake they've ever made, ever.
I was asking because I'm wondering whether you've heard from Brian Claypool, your attorney, who's a frequent guest here on Law and Crime, or others, other victims, what this means if you're named in this lawsuit. Is this just does this mean that, a lawyer will have to file briefs on your behalf, or sort of what, if you've heard what this means from a legal perspective for the victims, what they'll have to do now that this suit has been filed?
That changed my mind because I thought I was included in it. When I discovered I wasn't, I still want them to file my lawsuit because I don't want this, like I said, I don't want it to ever happen again. I want people to take a stand. We've got to be vigilant. We can't be complacent. Brian Claypool was the best attorney that I could imagine to defend us because he was there. Single dad there, thought it was his last night. We have done so much for the survivors. We have not slept. We are just on fire. We will move mountains to help these survivors for the rest of our lives. And one way he's going to help is he's going to make sure this never happens again. He's going to fight to the end.
The MGM hotels, by citing this Safety Act, talking about their security company, CSC, who had received some federal certification to prevent against a mass casualty event, basically almost shifting the blame to CSC. What do you make of that? I mean, was it the security team's fault as well, or did they, not fault maybe, but are they at fault for not keeping more people safe?
There are so many breakdowns in this situation, and there are people that died. At any point, this could have been aborted. At any point, this could have stopped. But it didn't. It continued because people failed. Everybody failed. So let's just make sure this doesn't happen again. Let's make sure people don't fail us so that we won't go to a concert and have the time of our lives and celebrate with our family and loved ones and have somebody point an AR-15 at us and kill us. Let's make sure this is why we are going to talk about this, and we are going to be outraged, and we're going to gather as many people as we can, and we are going to scream and yell until they understand they cannot do this.
As you've read, I'm sure, MGM did not say much. They did provide a brief statement saying that this was about moving the litigation from a state court to federal court, and that doing so provides those affected with the opportunity for a timely resolution. Years of drawn-out litigation and hearings are not in the best interest of victims, the community, and those still healing. What did you think about that statement, saying this is just about moving this to federal court and trying to speed up justice for you and the other victims?
I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I feel like what they're doing is a posturing, and they're hurting more people. And I can't even believe that their PR department would allow them to do this. I think it's going to hurt them in such a grave way. It's really sad and disgusting. Yeah, and people are going to be so disturbed by them altogether. I don't know how they can survive this.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we have seen a lot of backlash already. I know calls to boycott the group's hotels as well as the casinos, so on and so forth. Lisa, before we let you go, you've been mentioning your group, Route 91 Strong. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is and what you're doing in the aftermath of the shooting? It's hard to believe that it was less than a year ago, just this past October.
Thank you. So that night changed our lives forever. And Brian Claypool and I were 11 seats apart. We were in the same row. We ended up on the same show 2 days later on CNN with Chris Cuomo, and it was very emotional. And in that moment, we said, I mean, I get chills talking about it. We said, we've got to do something, because we couldn't believe that we were alive and they weren't. It's emotional. And we lived. So we feel like we have a responsibility to bring people together and help the survivors that were there, because we listened to the whole thing. We watched people die. It is indescribable. It was a war zone. So what we did was we gathered the most amazing survivors together with a mission that we will offer financial support, hope, and awareness to the world about gun violence. And we want to make sure that, you know, these people that are just devastated that their immediate needs get met, it is so sad what they're going through. And I just wish people knew. If we could just share that as much as possible, and if people could join our team and help us to help these people, it is tragic. So that's what we do. So you go to route91strong.org. You can email us. People can apply for our funds online. You know, they can call us, anything. And you can find us on Facebook, on all social media, Instagram. We're doing everything we can.
Lisa, thank you so much for that information, and thank you for joining us for this live interview this afternoon. We do appreciate your time. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this lawsuit, why MGM filed it against these 1,000 survivors and victims, rather, of the mass shooting in Las Vegas. Right.